So yesterday I ordered the entire Song of Ice and Fire book series, which is basically Game of Thrones for all you guys know, and I've started reading the first book. It's actually on my desk next to me right now. It's actually really good if you're into books and stuff and that sort of thing. I definitely recommend you should read it because it's actually really good. I am a little bit of a bookworm, I should say that. I do love a good book. And I've actually read a good few. I love reading the Halo books. I used to read the Lord of the Rings and all that, and the Lord of the Rings is still one of my favorite film and book franchises to this day. So yeah, welcome back to another video, guys. I think we should just get straight into this today. We have a brand new Storytime video for you guys, so hopefully you will enjoy it, as it's an extremely vivid memory for me, as it caused a lot of shit at school. And yeah, so let's just jump straight into it. So today's story takes place 7 years ago. Little Cosmic was in year 4 at this time, and yeah, I was maybe 9, 10-ish. I was definitely nearly 10 because it was in the summer of 2011. So one day, young Cosmic turns up at his primary school, which is one of the bigger primary schools in our town. There's like 4, I think. And ours is the second biggest behind I think it's the non-denominational school, sorry, because ours was actually a Catholic school. There was a bunch of Catholic kids there. It's a priest's wet dream. But yeah, there was about 300 pupils and 30 of them were in my year. So I turn up to class in the morning. The first lesson, we have registration, and then we do, I think it was maths today, which... yeah, it wasn't my favourite, as I'll get into a bit, but we turned up to class with my 2 friends who we are going to just call, I think, Mark and then Calvin. So, I'm actually still friends with these guys to this day, and we hang out a lot because me and Calvin go to the same school, or did, I should say, because I've just left high school now, which is a massive relief. So me, Calvin, and Mark rock up to class, and the teacher's doing registration. We have to do that stupid, "Good morning, Mrs. Whatever," insert name here. And, yeah... our teacher, well, I don't want to say she was a bitch, but this teacher was a fucking bitch. She used to scream at you for the littlest things, and bear in mind, she was teaching 8 to 9-year-olds, and this just made everyone in the room hate her. As well as taking all 3 of our breaks in primary school because some vegetable refused to be in the class worship act thing we used to do, which was, it was pretty cool. So I go about my day. We have maths and English, as I said before, which wasn't the best because at that time I was impartial to English, which is strange because now English is one of my favourite subjects because I love writing stories and doing all that stuff. But I still, to this day, have a deep hatred for maths. And that was my first lesson of the day. So needless to say, when that lunch bell eventually rang after about 2 hours and it was 12 o'clock, I was one of the first to the front of the dinner queue. So we have our lunch and it was a warm summer's day, so my school would let you go out of the yard and onto the field. Our school had 2 fields which were basically joined together on the grounds, which we just called the top field and bottom fields, which I know that is extremely imaginative, but this was just because the top field, which was where the kids played football and that, was elevated about 2 feet above the other field. So me, Calvin, and Mark walk onto the bottom field and walk to the little outdoor stage we have, which was basically where the year 4s hung out and played games, and like they did these kind of like crappy made up acts sort of things which we used to do in our worship, but we carried them out and we did them in at lunch as well. And also kids used to wrestle on there, which I don't like because it was AstroTurf, and if anything, it would just scrape you. And I don't think we even cared because it was just like normal for us at that time. So at this time, we get to the stage and we meet 2 of our friends who we're just going to call Alex and Kaylee. I have had those names prepared, leave me alone. So we meet these 2 and start talking about games and stuff because these 2 were really into video games, as well as me and Calvin, and then obviously Mark as well. So that leaves all 5 of us there just talking about video games. So we realised after this that we have French after the lunch, and none of us never liked French. It was just awful because we had this French woman that hardly spoke a word of English. It was quite funny, actually. And yeah, all 5 of us were just like, no, we don't like this. We didn't want to come to school today. I'd much rather be home playing, I know, Halo Reach or something. And we just decided, let's make a run from school. So we basically come up with this master plan. and that is that on the top field there is this fence which is inside a hedge, and part of that hedge was cut down, so it kind of went over, like the fence was exposed but the hedge still went over it, sort of thing. But yeah, we were basically saw that, and the fence's bottom bar, if you know what I mean, was missing. So if you crawled through, you could go from the fence into the graveyard opposite the field. As I said before, our Catholics, went to a Catholic primary school, so we had a church and a graveyard next to that, just literally opposite the field. So all of us made a move for the top field, and we got a year 3 in on it called Nathan to, well, that's not his real name obviously, but I just made that up. So to cover for us, we got Nathan to distract the teachers from the upper field. The plan was that Nathan would distract the teachers on the top field by luring them to the bottom field to watch the kids perform a show on that stage I was on about a few minutes ago. And yeah, this is where we make our move. We head for the top field and for the fence. After not long at all, we arrive at the fence and we can see through it into the graveyard. Nathan is doing his job, obviously distracting the teachers. And this is where all 5 of us made our move. One by one, we climbed through the fence and into the graveyard, with Calvin being the last one through. And we then begin to run through the graveyard towards the exit, as we all thought this graveyard was haunted and wanted to get through it as soon as possible, because we were all quite scared, actually, at this point in time. Even though it was like maybe like 12:30 at this time. I was going to say 1 in the afternoon, but yeah, so this is where we make a stupid move, as there are 2 ways out of the school, one by the church, and the other by the school, and we decide to walk right past the school, which made me cringe as to how fucking stupid we were, because when we walked past, one of the teachers in their classroom must have seen us and told the deputy head, who was this big 6'4" guy who was absolutely terrifying, and we used to call him Pablo Escobar, but you know. So our party gets to the end of the lane, where there are some fields to your right, which we say that we are going to hide in until the end of the day. These fields are next to a river, and you have to go over one of the little tributaries, which is basically where a little stream joins to the river, to get to the field. We cross the tributary with this little like wood bridge we used to have going over it, and run into the field and immediately begin shouting and screaming that we got out of school, and we were now in the clear. But this is where it goes downhill. This is where fucking Pablo Escobar himself, the Pablo Escobar of deputy head teachers, comes out of the school and down the road towards us. We immediately hit the deck and start to hide, as we knew they were looking for us at this point. It was pretty obvious. Pablo Escobar comes into the field and yells, "You all better get into the school before I call your parents," which scared the life out of all of us, because we didn't want our parents to know about this. It would get us in trouble, and I might get my Xbox taken off me, which obviously scared the living daylights out of us, as I said, but we thought we could hide it out. But in the end, a light blue uniform does not hide well in very green grass, so he found us and basically forced us to go back into school. So all 5 of us all got yellow cards, which was probably not a good idea, because we all had to stand out in the hall together. Yellow cards were basically detention for a day, and you basically had to give up all your breaks from that following day after you got it, and just stand outside the head teacher's office. And all 5 of us were basically just talking on lunch until teachers came and told us to shut up, and then we just started talking again, so that wasn't much fun. Even though we had defied his order, funnily enough, Mr. Escobar did not call our parents, and we kept the incident between all 5 of us and the school, obviously. I actually have another story time about running away from school as well, but this time it was at a school disco, and it caused us literally to become legends at school. And still to this day, my brother told me about this before he left that school, and they still talk about me and Calvin to this day in like assemblies and stuff, which is absolutely mental, because it happened before this story. It happened literally in about year 3, I think, so 2009, I think it was 2009 actually. So yeah, if you guys want to hear that story, let me know by leaving a like. But this has been CosmicCTF. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this story. If you did enjoy it, as I said, please do leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.